Hi, I'm looking at some things concerning nuclear power in Fukushima. And last week there was that 8.2 at 500 kilometers deep, and then I predicted maybe a 9, but no 9 has appeared. And there was a lot of 6s that went around the rim. And there was a 6.2 off the Oregon coast, but I didn't feel it. Then there was a 7.1 down here in Venezuela. So that 8.2 did not turn out to be a 9, but there's still nuclear power plants all around on all these coasts. So all these earthquakes are going to cause another one to fry at some point, explode. And I'm also looking at number 1 exploding, and the shock wave that comes off it is a great indicator that it's, I don't know, I don't think it's just a hydrogen explosion. How can you get a shock wave off of that? So the earthquakes cause floods, and they build these next to the ocean, so they get flooded, and everything fails because they need outside power to cool the reactors. Now here's number 1. These buildings are of different construction. These are more heavier built with these cement columns, and this just has the iron beams all the way around, so the construction seems like they're different in these plants, in these units. So here's one, blew up Saturday, March 12th at 3:36, about a day after the earthquake. Now these were built down into the ground, so they were closer to the water, because that's the plan of the nuclear industry. So you want to call Home Security, NSA, FBI, CIA, and you want to tell them that the nuclear terrorists are running all these plants, and then they'll get right on it and keep us safe, because that's what our government does. It loves us and keeps us safe. Here's another one where it says it's cut down in the ground through the nuclear brilliant designers. So here's number 1 blowing up. Can't see the shockwave in this one, but that's number 1 blowing up. And then here's a infrared picture of Unit 1 with no date or anything as usual, but you can see everything's hot. All the reactors hot, the fuel pools are hot. It's just a big melted down reactor. Here shows the top, the roof's just gone. So was that a different construction, or it was just a straight up, that shock wave just blew everything away, which is my guess. So here they're trying to monitor the radioactivity. They say they're not spraying water. And I had a couple pictures of these beams right here, and they were melted and twisted. And I had some up close ones, and I can't find them, but this beam was melted and twisted, which means it wasn't a hydrogen explosion. And that shock wave also meant it wasn't a hydrogen explosion. So after a few months, they started to cover up number 1 and make it look better, if nothing else. So then they have it covered up, and then they kept it covered up for 6 years. Well, from 2011 to 2016, and they took it all off because I guess they'd filtered the air enough, which I still don't understand, because the reactor melted into the ground. I don't know, should have left it covered, I guess. But I don't know what TEPCO does. Just a bunch of insane people. getting paychecks. Here's just a little incidental. This shows how the reactor was capped off, and they have all these cement slabs up here. So think how much more energy than you imagined happened. All these must be 10-foot thick of cement slabs that blew off on these things. Now here's number 1, and it just shows how pulverized everything is. I mean, it's just hammered. Look at that. It's like, it's not quite dust, but wow, it's pretty close. So that was not a hydrogen explosion. Look at all these beams all twisted, melted. There is no way this is hydrogen. So I'm just continuing on that idea because everyone loves to say it's a hydrogen explosion, and I don't believe it for a second in any of these things. Look at that. It's pulverized. Not quite dust, but sort of what a nuclear warfare would call for in cities that you bomb. You can have rubble or dust. You just have to include a few more warheads. Those are ways you grade your destruction of cities. And here's why we don't want these things. Because more of them are going to melt down. And here's 269 counts a minute. If it's over 100, you don't want to live there. And over here in Oregon, I think I'm fairly lucky. 16, this is 12, and that's right near Portland. But look at some of these areas. It doesn't matter where you go. Oh, that one's not bad, it's just red. So anyway, we're getting radiated all over the country. It's near the Great Lakes. Over 100 counts per minute, you don't want to live there. So call the NSA and everybody and tell them about the terrorists. Then they'll take care of everything for us because the government loves us. All right.